Hey guys, welcome back to Ponderings from Palm Coast. I'm Mark Webb, and today I have a special guest who I'm excited to have a great conversation about a project that he's been working on. And so David Garrigus, I'm terrible with names.
No, that's perfect. That was perfect.
David, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have a conversation about the Constitution, and that's your special project. So share with us a little background about yourself, where you're from, what you got going on, and then we can dive in and talk about this project.
Yeah, I've been a filmmaker all my life. Went to school for that. Have been making educational corporate films, and then I decided I wanted to do a historical documentary. Made a film about the Wright brothers' invention of the airplane, and then I was kind of fishing around looking for my next project. And because I had success with that, I wanted to do another origin story, tell a historical origin story. So I thought about a lot of things, but I finally landed on the Constitution. I don't think that it exists out there. I haven't been able to find another historical documentary that delves into it like I have. So I've been working on it for a long time and have realized how complex this really is. You know, I was thinking the actual event in Philadelphia in the room where it happened only took 3.5 months back in 1787 when all those guys got together and made the sausage. But
The political term, making the sausage.
right, right,
The concepts.
right. So I thought 3.5 months I should be able to nail this in a very short period of time. But there's so much depth to it, and it's difficult to make a historical documentary logistically from anything that happened before photography, because what do you put on the screen? It's a visual medium. And so we had to figure out a language for that, visual language. And so we worked on it and been working on it a long time, and it's ready for prime time.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union,
we owe all the liberties and freedoms that we have to these documents and the men who wrote them.
It really was chaos.
Washington, Franklin, Madison,
We sometimes call him the father of the Constitution.
Hamilton,
Our chances here are infinitely slender.
in their own words.
The plot thickens fast.
Understand how it looked in the summer of 1787.
They were really terrified.
A few short weeks would determine the political fate of America.
If it didn't work, their fellow politicians would call them traitors.
Everything depends on this.
As much goes on behind the scenes as in the actual assembly room.
It was a monumental event.
Before the U.S. Constitution, democracy doesn't exist very many places on the planet.
It's hard to understand American society without understanding the Constitution.
Outstanding. Well, I'm excited to see it, and I know that we'll make available and you can address the opportunities of being able to see that. How did you decide the Constitution was going to be your next great adventure? Because it sounds like it's taken up everything you do for a long period of time.
It has. I wanted to know more about it myself. I wasn't by any stretch an expert in the Constitution, so I felt like this is the kind of story I can do by focusing in on this event, this origin event, and talking about the Constitution through that, and how they came up with these rules and regulations, which is what the Constitution is, right? It's not like the Declaration of Independence, which has all these lofty aspirations. It's more about this is how this is going to work, this is how that's going to work. So how'd they come up with those rules? How did they come up with those? What were the reasons behind that? And what was the conflict? And what was the compromise that they went through to come up with the Constitution. And that's the thing, it is the Constitution. It hasn't changed that much. It's amended 20 some odd times, but not to the extent where it has changed. The story that's told about 1787 is the same Constitution that we deal with today, with the exception of things like, slavery and a couple things like that.
You mean, would you consider that the Constitution is a living document?
Well, I think it has to be.
Do you think the founders hoped that it would be improved, revised over time based on experience and things we don't know about?
Well, you would think, right?
Well, yeah, I would think that.
Yeah, they did some things that made it difficult to amend.
Right.
Crazy difficult. This is getting in the weeds, but the bar that they put for themselves, right? We need 9 states out of the existing 13 states to ratify the Constitution that they delivered out of Independence Hall, the State House at the time. So they came out with this Constitution and said, we only need 9 out of 13 states to ratify this Constitution, and then it goes into effect. But the bar they set for us, the legacy, everybody in the last 230-something years, we need 75%.
Right, 3 times. The House, the Senate, and then the states.
Well, 75, the states, 75%. I think the Congress is still 2/3.
Right.
But so that's a huge difference, and it's proven to be impossible to a certain extent.
Well, it's been how many amendments now? 27.
Yeah, but the first 10 were
the Bill of Rights,
which is, who's going to argue with that?
No.
Americans figured they already had all those rights.
And it is interesting, and I've been, because of, like you, curiosity, as we all have heard probably daily conversations about the Constitution and the interpretation of various things. What I found interesting and challenging was I could not find any evidence of any other attempt to form a government of multiple entities like the states, because during the ratification and the conception and building of our Constitution, it had the fingerprints of the existing states and their views, which were dramatically different from the South to the North, and that's something that we struggled for hundreds of years after that. So when you get like the Constitution of Canada or the Constitution of Thailand, it's one country, one constitution, and everybody falls under it. But our Constitution empowers and actually expects participation by all the 50 states, as we've been hearing with the election conversations that are going on. And that, I think, is a huge accomplishment, for one, that you could get those people in a room. And second, we have to realize and understand an interpretation is a challenging thing at best. How did you come about or address those things in your exploration of putting that together?
Right. I was thinking in terms of, from the very beginnings, thinking in terms of, I'm telling a historical story based on the facts that have survived, the notes from the convention, the letters and diaries. And so that's where I started with. So it wasn't, maybe I was like a deer caught in the headlights a little bit. I was looking at it from a historical point of view and telling the historical story. And the more I got into it, I realized how it's not just a historical story. It's about today. It's entirely relevant. All those decisions they made. So I went from having authors, historians, that wrote about that Constitutional Convention. And then I started adding in constitutional scholars like Akil Reed Amar and constitutional historians like Michael Klarman of Harvard and Sanford Levison, he's from UT Austin. So the cast of the experts that are in the film this is a film that really stands on those guys' shoulders, these great authors, great teachers, to tell the story. And then my job was to illustrate the story through images and help kind of bring it to a mass audience.
Wow. So it sounds like you're hoping to provide information that is validated of the opinion of the best experts you could find.
Right. But it's not
and
opinions.
then
it's facts.
Right. Well,
historical facts.
Today the word facts are challenging at best, and I'm sure
these are historical. These are
understood.
Undisputable facts. The notes. There's no pictures, of course, because it was well before photography.
Sure.
But there are the notes from the Constitutional Convention. Several of the delegates, mostly James Madison, wrote those notes. So we have a very detailed description of what those arguments were and those compromises made to base this film on.
Did you find, if you talked to multiple historians, experts, people that probably spent their entire lives studying this, a base or a consistency of agreement?
Yes.
And that is really the more powerful message that can help the rest of, and hopefully the people that see your project, your film, will come away with some level of confidence that the facts that are being shared are a consistent view of everything that they've researched and put out. And so is that what you're trying to do?
That's what I'm trying to do. And we've had screening events all over the country so far. I spent the last year touring the country. We spent the 2025 touring the country and doing screening events. We're doing that in 2026. But it's just incredible to sit in a room with the folks, watch this film. It used to be 85 minutes. Now I've got it down to 57 minutes. I've cut out all the distractions and got it down to the story, to the minimalist story that people can watch for less than an hour, and then we have a conversation about the Constitution. And I think it's a little bit disarming for people, because a lot of these places I go to, they're as ruby red as you ever want to be, and the audience is filled with these folks. But they appreciate that this is the history. We're not talking about today's events. We're talking about what happened then, and from that perspective, it's a very way of people to be open to ideas and to have a conversation. And the moment I really hit upon this, traveling the country and wanting to, instead of just putting it up on PBS and people watch it in their own living rooms, I wanted to be in a room with a group of people, watch it, and then talk about it.
Absolutely.
Talk about those issues.
Get that real feedback of the hard work and product that you've put together.
And it's informed the documentary in many ways.
Absolutely. I mean, there's not a person I run across that's like-minded or not that I don't glean something from the experience. I don't care how wrong I may think they are. And I've actually modified or changed my views of things based on those experiences. So the feedback of this old school going around colleges or going around and putting forth your work and then opening up for conversation is so necessary today, especially with the younger people. And I have two small, or they're not small, they're bigger than me, and they're in their 30s, sons that are living their own lives. And they have their own views and interpretations of things, and the conversations that we get into in which I just try not to say, well, I'm 3 times older than you, so I've seen more, because that doesn't work in a defense of a viewer. It's, these are the facts, let's talk about those, agreeing that these are the facts.
Right.
And that's the first base, that the challenge that I think in a conversation, and that's hopefully a gift that you're putting out there. So I'm really excited to see it, but I love the after moment conversation when it's just happened, you have thoughts in your mind, you've just experienced something that may challenge your thoughts, and let's talk about it. Because that's when the change happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when the growth occurs.
Yeah, I think people walk away from the film that and I appreciate people going to a theater and sitting and watching the film rather than being on their couch and watching it at home. It's quite an ask of audiences these days because of the way that the streaming environment, people don't go to these events like they used to. So I'm very appreciative anyone that comes out to the event. We kind of have the perfect storm here with the 250th anniversary of America, and you know, as we talked, the Ken Burns did his 12-hour American Revolution film. I think I started mine before he started his, though. just to be clear. But
I wonder how those two experiences are based on what you know and what he knows. And
it's apples and oranges. His is a much different kind of film.
Yeah.
We've hired actors and have them on camera in full wardrobe of the 18th century, you know, guys that were about the right age as the framers of the Constitution.
Sure.
They're consummate actors, or they're veteran actors, performing as James Madison and George Washington and Hamilton and Franklin and Gouverneur Morris, and the list goes on. All these guys, you know, America's best at the time,
yeah,
from each state gathered in this room and hammering out the Constitution. And we put, those are the words they speak are the words from their notes or the notes of James Madison. So again, it's a documentary. It's the nothing that the actors are saying is made up by me or a writer. It's all
right.
It's all the actual notes. It's all the actual words, thoughts, I should say.
How did you find that literature? How did you? You must have.
It's on the web.
Everything is right there.
Everything's available. We're lucky as a country to have the National Archives and the Library of Congress to provide that information digitally, and in most instances, you can go see a digital photo, a digital image of the original notes of James Madison,
right?
And whatnot.
Now I was, and this is where I need your help. I was under the impression that the Constitution, the final version in 1787, was not the original attempt, that they had wrote one 2 years earlier, but in the course of that 2 years, because people don't realize travel was the biggest challenge of getting all these people to meet periodically, because you were on a horseback or you were in a train or you were in a carriage, so it would take weeks or longer to get everybody together.
Yeah, they wrote 1776, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they all, within that time frame, they wrote the Articles of Confederation, which is our first Constitution. That's what they called it. It was the Constitution. And that took a while to get ratified and passed around, so it did take a couple of years for that to finally become ratified. And so that's what we lived under, that document, which was basically a treaty between countries, because all the states were countries at the time, really. In a war, it was a war it was like the Allies fighting the British in the American Revolution. So that's what, and then that was what it was very loose. There was no president and no, there was one branch of legislature, and it just didn't work. It was too loose, it just didn't work. And that's explained in the film a little bit.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of the leaders thought, hey, we've got to have a more powerful central government in order for this to work. Otherwise, the likelihood was the states would just break up into regions, because North and South didn't have a lot in common. So it might have broken up into 3 regions, or who knows? It's hard to say what would have happened. But,
well, what's happening today
right.
is a need for clarification, understanding the them and us, and the understanding of the purpose of our government and how it provides that. But you bring up a really good point, and I'm curious, the revision or the effort it took from the first declaration to what they finally got took years. Are we able, or is there a method to review and approve and to clarify in 2026 the needs of our government and a document to follow that? Do you feel that that's a necessary thing?
There's nothing really in the Constitution that says that the Supreme Court is the deciding factor about what's constitutional, what's not. It's kind of vaguely mentioned in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy came along, first, or one of the early Supreme Court justices, John Marshall, who grabbed that authority, right? So it's interesting to me that I think that the judicial branch has taken a lot of that authority that you're asking about through the Supreme Court, but it's interesting because it's a very imperial way of approving or disapproving of what the legislation branch, the executive branch, want to do, to come back and say, oh no, you can't do that. And those are all 9 appointed, politically appointed people, right? And it's worked for us off and on throughout the last 230 some odd years, but you got to realize that's not necessarily what they intended.
What do you think, and I love to ask this question of people that have, obviously you've been swimming in this pool for a while, pretty saturated. What do you think the founding fathers and the all the people that were involved in that would think about today? What do you think?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. I try to not pay attention as much to what's going on because I am so hyper focused on telling the historical story and being in these rooms with groups of people from so many different, we don't even talk about. It's so interesting.
And that's understandable.
We don't talk about that stuff, and it's not that I'm forcing it. The audience is wanting to look at it from this historical point of view. It's wonderful.
Are you hearing that from the viewing conversations?
Yes. The questions they ask, they're not asking, what you just asked. What would they think about this? Because they're more interested about how we got to here, I think.
I always have tried to imagine, or at least ponder, if I may steal that term, what was in the mind's eye of someone who, or many someones that construct and put together something that were as passionate and patriotic. They knew what they didn't want clearer than they knew what they wanted, and they had to iron out and hammer out how that was going to look.
Right.
And coming as from in my background I was a technical writer and procedural writer, and every document that I was ever involved with had a methodology of improvement, revisions,
Right.
and an expectation, or even in some cases a requirement, to bring a document. And I think about right here in Palm Coast, and you probably don't know this, we're in our charter review for our city, which is embedded in the charter, and it requires the city government to do a review of its charter/constitution, because it gives us guidelines to live by, to do it at least as a minimum every 10 years. Because they don't know what they
Right.
don't know.
Exactly.
And the challenge that we're going through is sadly political in nature, because the charter allows for the sitting representatives to pick their own representatives to make those changes. Now, eventually, it's going to come before you in November as a ballot for any of the changes. So you will get a chance to vote, which is what the bread and butter, the hope was within our Constitution, right? But you have all these groups that are saying or believing or putting in place, but eventually you get to vote and choose who that person is.
Right.
Unfortunately, historically, most of the citizens of this country don't even realize the power they have to vote in effect. And that's been going on for a long time.
Right.
But I kind of can see that correlation between you have a guiding document, whatever it is, in our case, the Constitution, which gives us kind of a rough roadmap of how we want, how we decide, and how we do things. But as we were talking, there really doesn't seem to be a value-added process to improve or revise or grow or clarify a document that's 250 years old.
Yeah.
That didn't perceive of, they didn't understand slavery at the time. They knew it was there. They saw within the room, I'm paraphrasing because you're the expert, wasn't that a pretty heated conversation within the states, even at the beginning?
It influenced almost every decision they made.
Yeah.
Slavery. And it, my film delves a lot into slavery, a lot, because it just is so integral to those decisions. And we get in on a lot of information about how the decisions they made teed up the Civil War, which was...
Absolutely. So it didn't cool the minds of people even back in 1787.
It actually, in a lot of ways, codified slavery into the American culture, because it made laws that were protected slavery.
The slavery was the issue at the time. And historically, from what Ken Burns' documentary was alluding to, the conversation that Britain was in they were in the process of removing slavery from all of its territories. They had had enough. They had made changes. And that is, at least by some scholars, part of the reason why the revolutionary, of many reasons, got started and got involved, was because in the South, did you run into support for that mindset?
Not in particular. I pick it up as James Madison, George Washington are arriving in Philadelphia. So
Right.
we didn't try to tell a bigger story.
Well, that's a much bigger bite
Right.
for you to do in a 50-plus minute.
What I was looking for is to here's Constitution 101.
Right.
You can watch this film in 60 minutes, and you're going to hopefully, if you can retain all this, you'll have enough knowledge as if you took a class,
civics class, eh?
a civics class for a whole semester.
You know,
I think
you guys know what civics are? They don't teach it much anymore, unfortunately.
But that was my goal. I wanted to be entertaining. I wanted to bring those framers to life, you know, to bring their words to life, and then have these incredible storytellers, which teachers are, right?
Oh yeah.
Have the teachers tell the story and elevate this origin story.
You know, and it sounds like, and it's good that you, I think, smartly constructed what you were trying to do of a moment in time based on factual documents and those kind of things to just put out in a very friendly, neutral environment. These are the words, these are what was said, these are what these gentlemen were thinking about, and how that product got presented. And so you don't even deal with or touch on anything beyond the Bill of Rights, because those were all after.
They were immediately after, yeah. Within the first Congress, they developed the Bill of Rights, James Madison again. Mm-hmm. I wrote this as a 5-part miniseries. And,
how would you, I could see it just getting huge.
And what you'll see in the film is like episode 2 and 3, and then there's episode 4 and 5 where we ratify the Constitution, which you have all these conventions all over the Eastern Seaboard, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're voting on this up or down. You know, there's no modifying it. You got to either take it as they wrote it or not take it. And then in the first Congress was the Bill of Rights, and that was a big deal in the ratification process. People were saying, where's your Bill of Rights? So it's a great story.
Right. So does that mean that you have more on your plate?
I have more on my plate for this film. It's in production. All the actors that I've filmed, you know, who portrayed James Madison, George, everybody, who's the story. I've already filmed them for the episode 1 where, it's great. James Madison and Edmund Randolph are frantically trying to get George Washington to come to this convention because he was not going to do it. He said no. He was emphatic about it, but they had to work on him to get him to be one of the Virginia representatives to come to the convention. Because without Washington, you know, your chance of success is going to be much lower.
So even back then, a singular driver focus individual was paramount to success.
Absolutely, yeah.
And today, we're faced with that same kind of scenario we hear all the time. So who is going to be the next singular focus person? And doesn't that actually go against the whole concept of the Constitution, in which it was a majority of many?
The first branch is the legislature. That's what they thought, that the Senate and the House of Representatives would be the power branch of the government that would write all the laws. And this turnaround to where a lot of that power the executive hasn't grabbed it necessarily, but it's been ceded to the executive over the years to where, for whatever reason, you know, the legislature was to declare war, right? Well, things happen.
We just don't say the word war.
We got nuclear weapons, and war can happen in a matter of seconds. So we got to cede that power to the executive. So over the years, that transformation has taken place, and I think we do need to kind of look at what the document actually says and figure out where things aren't going the way we want. I think we need to amend the Constitution, maybe not have another convention and rewrite it. There are people that want to do that now, but I think we need to, we've got this Constitution. It's a little bit of a Model T in the 21st century, but we need to figure out how to amend it. And that would, I think that's the answer. And I think we got to get rid of this 75% of states have to ratify it. That's the problem. It needs to be more like 2/3.
Well, I know that, and again, it's important, and I appreciate you being very clear on the project that you have available, that we all need to find it, see it, go, participate, and have a great conversation, is a capture of a finite event in which the legacy of where we are today was constructed and put together.
We do get a little bit into, as a result of that decision, here's the Civil War. As a result of that decision, the amendment process doesn't work. As a result of that decision.
Oh, good. So you do throw some conversations of thought to it. Oh, exactly.
Still history,
Well, some people will say history is only the history written by the winners of a conflict and whatever. And I hear this because I have a son who has a degree in history from the University of Washington. And man, get him talking about, and he specialized and wrote his paperwork on governments throughout history of all forms. And he's convinced that the longest running, most successful form of government, if you want to say it, is a benevolent dictator. Because if you look at Japan and you look at China, for 3,000 years, they had a ruler that was people-driven for stability and long term.
Yeah, but the success of Japan,
exactly.
after the war, they adopted a constitution very similar to ours.
They did.
And they have been one of the most successful.
I love it. But the need for revision and clarification, I was talking with somebody recently and we were discussing the Constitutional Convention, which is allowed if 3/4 of the states call for it.
Right.
And there was early on some fears that one of the parties was working hard at the state level to get a supermajority of each of the states to call for a convention, in which now you have a month-long convention where people go in with representatives and write it the way they think it should be. I don't know if that's,
I don't know.
I don't know what the answer is.
I talked to one constitutional scholar who that's his goal, and I don't know that I agree with that, but
yeah,
I've got his. He's not in the film yet. I just filmed him about a month ago. So he'll be in the miniseries.
But had you heard that conversation with the other experts of where do we go from here kind of conversation, or at least leave it out there for conversations?
I think these constitutional scholars that I talk to and the historians, they're a lot more putting the information out there. That's how I took my cue from them, is they put their information out there. This is the facts, and they're not necessarily going to say, oh, this is the direction we need to go.
Right.
But they present the facts as they see.
And it's for others to gather that and make decisions of moving forward, which we always thought was the legislative branch's purpose, was always to go back and talk to the people, they're elected by the people, and come and find a quorum of agreement to move forward, to
Write
laws, spend our money. As I think you pointed out, I don't think there was an intent within the founding fathers to have 9 men on a Supreme Court that could come and say.
I don't think they looked at it like that.
No, I don't think so either.
John Marshall, I think he was maybe Marbury versus Madison. That was the case.
Yeah.
Where the Supreme Court kind of grabbed that authority to be the final auditor about what's constitutional, what's not. So
yeah, I think from my interpretation and what I've read about it, I think the biggest fear, and you talked about George Washington, and maybe hopefully you touched on that in the construction, what were the biggest fears of the founding fathers? Was it not the fear of one all-powerful person, i.e. a king, once again, telling us all? And that's why the Bill of Rights is so driven toward empowering the citizens and being protected from our government. I mean, we've been studying it at length, and I highly recommend everyone reading the Bill of Rights and asking this question: who was it written for? And you will find, at least for me, that it was written to empower and to protect the citizens, not the government.
I would even say focus on the preamble to the Constitution, because the preamble is the part of the Constitution. The rest of it is just the rules.
The hows and whys. And
yeah, well, the rules and the preamble is what we are trying to achieve with this Constitution. So I would say if it doesn't meet the standards of the preamble, it shouldn't be in the Constitution to be law. With the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. Those are the rules. Those are what we're trying to do with this Constitution. That's what was presented during the ratification process. That's why people voted for it, is they read that "We the People" preamble.
Right.
And
that's so powerful, and it's so powerful in today's world, because there are people that feel like they're not being addressed, their lifestyle or their views or whatever. And, the Constitution's only as good as the people that support it and participate.
Right, it's a construct.
Exactly. And I say this all the time. It saddens me greatly when I look at statistics that show that the largest majority of citizens that are eligible to vote, that's anyone 18 or older, the participation is below 50% of our entire country.
Well, the system's set up for that, right?
Yeah.
With the Electoral College,
right?
You've got whole states where people just say, why vote in this election? Because my vote doesn't really matter, so why vote at all? And then you've got other states where they're spending, I don't know, billions of dollars in Pennsylvania for one election.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's and it needs a polishing, I like to call it, with a document to where you just kind of, you don't throw the whole thing out.
It's amendments.
It's amendments, and sometimes amendments are done in haste, done rationally.
Never here, though, because it's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible. It took a civil war to end slavery.
Right. Well, if you think about it and you look at, say, voting, and you look at the voting of white men, then all men, and then eventually, how long did it take before they gave the voting rights to women?
Right. It was not that long ago.
No, it was not. It was like into the early 60s. And it's ironic that the majority of the states had already changed their own, because if we haven't heard it enough, let's hear it again. The elections are the responsibility of the states to set how and why and when and whatever, other than the federal election. And a lot of states had already ratified and given women in their state the right to vote. So I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. They didn't believe me when I said, did you know that there's some municipalities, small cities, some up in the Northeast, that allow non-citizens to vote for certain positions like dog catcher or school board or whatever, because they have the right within their body to make those changes. And I think that's important. You know, I do think that citizens, us, need to understand what our responsibility, and I'm hoping
That's what drives me.
that's what drives you.
Yeah.
And that's why you
Understanding.
put all of this, you know, you can, I use this analogy all the time. I have no idea, David, how this works, but I use it every day.
Sure.
And I rely on it every day, but I couldn't tell you the structure behind how it works. Have we gotten to that point within our government? And
I always say, you know, you wouldn't play Monopoly without understanding the rules. So you're participating, you're a citizen in this country. If you don't know the basic rules of how things work, how are you possibly going to know how to vote, how to get things done that you need done, or protect yourself, protect your rights? So I think it's essential that people need to know this document, at least understand how it works and how it affects them.
I carry mine around. I highly recommend everybody grabbing one and reading it. It's not a big document.
It's only 4 pages.
There's not a lot to it, but it's very powerful, and there's a lot of goodness in there. David, any final thoughts? I know we're going to have you on Conversations with American Democracy to continue this conversation.
Fantastic.
So how can we pay attention and know when your project is available, and how can we get involved?
Well, I'm always looking for new places to have events. We've got somebody, impact producer, who's takes care of that and signs up, and we need what do you call it? A champion
Each area.
Each area needs a champion that can say, okay, we want this film. Let's see if we can find a venue and see if we can find people to support that event and figure out how to get people butts in the seats, as they say, eyeballs on the screen. And we've got this broadcast, coming up. Nashville PBS is our presenting station.
Nice.
To PBS through NEDA, through all the other PBS stations in the country. Covers 98% of the country with PBS stations. Thank goodness.
Oh,
and
yes, definitely.
So that's probably in the fall of 2020 of this year, to kind of ride that 250th celebration storm that we're about to experience here.
Well, it's amazing. Here you are, started a project years ago, and now you're living it.
Right.
Now, what you've done and what you're trying to present has the potential of tasting and looking completely different based on what's happening in society today.
Right. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
That, you work on a project, you put something out, and during that time, an event happens or is happening every day, which changes how people see your project.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Are you experiencing that when you do your presentations and people have that conversation afterwards?
I think there's a thirst, there's a passion for this that there wasn't maybe a few years ago. People are frightened, people are confused, as to what's going on in the country.
Right.
So I think that's kind of a catalyst for people coming to these screening events, and I really I'm glad the film is finished.
Well, your time is impeccable. Yeah. And hopefully people will see it as just a presentation of your interpretation and many, many others, the facts of the day and how this document was put together. And then let everything else kind of answer itself.
Right.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts? I'm so glad you're here.
Get this amendment process taken care of. I think that solves a lot the overall problems, like the electoral college and the impeachment process, all these things that don't work. If we had an amendment that lowered the bar, that's my final thought. Amendment to lower the bar to 2/3 of states ratifying amendments rather than 3/4. All of a sudden, people will start focusing on, we could actually get an amendment passed to take care of some of these issues that have plagued this country since the beginning.
Well, we don't need an amendment. We just have the Supreme Court that's going to make the decision on what is constitutional or not.
An outgrowth of not being able to amend the Constitution.
Changes. Well, David, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This has been a great pleasure.
Yeah, I very much enjoy and impressed that people like you and others are spending so much time and energy. It's probably your whole life passion to put this kind of information out there, to start a conversation, to ponder what's going on every day, which is what I'm trying to bring to you guys. So listen, here's your homework. Get yourself a pocket constitution. Read a little bit. Don't let the news, the media, conversations tell you what it says. Find out for yourself. Be involved. And when David's movie's out and it's available, participate. Get off your couch, go see it. Surround yourself with other citizens. The conversations that you will have with people, even if they're not like-minded, are the most valuable, and I believe is what made us as Americans so much stronger and better for it.
And it'll help you inform the decisions you make.
Absolutely.
By knowing the rules of the game.
Oh, well, and it's not only that, but understanding what the rules were there for. To understand, why didn't they put a stoplight down here? Well, that's because there's been multiple people had accidents, so we're trying to improve things. So guys, with that, get a pocket calculator or a count. Yeah,
it's on your phone.
It's on your phone.
It's already there.
Your entire thing.
Constitution on calculator.
Yeah, a pocket constitution. Get one. Get involved. Participate. Thanks for listening. Come back. I have more to give. We got a bunch of candidates that we're trying to get lined up to bring in, to listen to, because what is the only and most important gift, mandate, expectation that the Founding Fathers had was the citizens to vote and participate. Don't lose that right. So guys, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.